So there's a contradiction between social production and private appropriation. There's a contradiction between the mode of production and the mode of appropriation. And during periods of crisis, it comes to a clash and the whole thing explodes. This is what Engels has to say on this. In these crises, the contradiction between socialized production and capitalist appropriation ends in a violent explosion. The circulation of commodities is for the time being stopped. You can't get money. Now, money hasn't disappeared. Some God man hasn't come and taken away all the money. Money is there. The problem we have is not that there's no money. The problem is we've got too much capital. It's a crisis of profitability. It isn't a crisis because we suddenly lost capital. The capital doesn't disappear just because there is a crisis. Nobody is lending because they don't know if they'll get their money back. You don't even these days know. It's such a bad crisis. Even the bourgeois economists are saying it is a tsunami. Wheels have come off the bicycle. And you don't know which bank to put your money in. Now, you may not have much money. You might have £200, but £200 mean a lot to some people. You may have £10,000. You don't know which bank to put. You don't know when you wake up in the morning that John Humphreys won't be announcing that that particular bank has failed, that the banks are failing. So in the major capitalist countries, like Britain and the United States, huge, giant financial institutions have become practically state-owned. They dare not call it nationalization because that word is socialist. Now, even if nationalization was to take place, there's nothing socialist about it because it's the nationalization of the debt. It's socialism for the bourgeoisie. And they don't really dislike socialism for the bourgeoisie. They're quite happy with it. They want to privatize profits, but they want to nationalize all the that there is. So the circulation of commodities is for the time being stopped. Money, the means of circulation, becomes a hindrance to circulation. All the laws of production and circulation are turned upside down. The mode of production is in rebellion against the mode of exchange. And Engels carries on, the whole mechanism of capitalist mode of production breaks down under the pressure of the productive forces, its own creation. It no longer is able to turn this mass of means of production into capital. Means of production, means of subsistence, available laborers, all the elements of production and general wealth are present in abundance. But abundance becomes the source of distress and want, as Fourier said, because it's the very thing that prevents the transformation of the means of production and subsistence into capital. So the major problem is you cannot have the means of production. You cannot have the means of subsistence functioning in capitalist society unless they can first be converted into capital. This necessity for for converting the means of production into capital is what stands like a ghost between the working people being able to work and consume and production and being able to take place. And this only becomes apparent to everybody during a period of crisis. When the merry-go-round is going, everybody is doing very well, everybody feels really rather happy. Capitalism is a wonderful system. The bourgeoisie is making a lot of money, and even people like many of us in this room are able to buy houses on the basis of what called subprime mortgages. Now, you've got to learn this rather ugly terminology that is in the financial side. What is a subprime mortgage? Whereby the person getting a loan actually has a very dodgy financial background and is probably in the final analysis not able to pay. They're called ninja borrowers. Yeah? No job, no assets. Yeah? That's what a ninja borrowers is. You might have known another character called Ninja, but this is not it. So these people are able to borrow. And then what's more, as the bubble increases, more and more people are buying, it pushes the prices up. And you bought a house for 100,000, 6 months later it's worth 130,000. Well, you borrowed the 100,000 because they gave you 100% mortgage. Then you say, oh, wonderful, wouldn't it be nice to have a Mercedes? Cost 35,000. Well, we'll remortgage the house. This is called extraction of equity. And a time then comes, you lose your job, you're not able to pay, and the whole thing falls off. The present crisis, which started in its immediate context, in July 2007, started in suburban America, started with subprime mortgages. And at the time it was thought it would just stay in America and it wouldn't go anywhere. It was even said that the newly emerging Asian economies have broken away from being tied to America and their economies have decoupled. And we were saying at the time there's no decoupling. All the capitalist economy is like the victims of the mafia with their feet in cement. They cannot leave each other. They are all together. And the wheels finally do actually come off. And I'll give you some present day figures. I think it's time for me, having given you some quotation from Engels, to give you some figures about the crisis of overproduction that we have. Now, all the capitalist economists and commentators are freely admitting now that the economy, and these are the expressions they use, it's fallen off the cliff. This is what Warren Buffett says. He's one of the biggest investors, and one of the sane ones. Actually, if there's such a thing as a humane capitalist, he is a humane capitalist in the sense that he's given almost all his money that he's made, and it's worth 26 or 27 billion, to charities, saying my children, if they've learned anything from me, they'll be able to make money anyway, but I'm going to give it to charity. But he says the wheels have, the economy has fallen off the cliff. That's what he says. Others describe it as the world's deepest economic downturn since the Great Depression. And what is more, they have begun to now openly acknowledge the folly of believing in market fundamentalism. Until a few months ago, you couldn't say anything against the free market. Market was the all-pervasive, all-powerful instrument for doing everything right. Your grandmother is ill, the market will take care of it. Your child needs to go to university, the market will take care of it. You lose your job, the market will take care of it. This is the invisible hand of the market will do. And now what are they calling for? The invisible hand of the market must be supplemented by the clenched fist of the government. There must be regulation. There must be some, and the biggest bankers are now in favor of governments taking over banks. And some bourgeois journalist said, Paulson, he's the previous U.S. Treasury Secretary. Paulson is the champion nationalizer of all times. He managed more nationalization than any man on planet. Now, you might not completely disagree with that sentence. I think the Bolsheviks did a good job of it in a much better way. But anyway, they are all into nationalization. And the credit crunch has exposed why people were quiescent in the market economy. They were quiescent because, as I told you, even working people could go and get a mortgage and then extract equity and have fun. Working people who had horrible lives for a long time, when they get an opportunity to have a good life, they have a good life. Why shouldn't they? Why should it be reserved only for the few? Now, you become quiescent because you think the thing is working. But the thing is not working. And in a country like America, where to question the free market, fundamentalism was to question the Holy Trinity. Now, even in the United States of America, they're beginning to think in terms of social justice, in terms of equity, in terms of distribution of wealth. All that is coming to the discomfiture. And comedians in late night shows in America have taken to calling for what the bourgeois press mentions, Chinese-type executions of big capitalists. This may be a joke, but this joke doesn't appear out of nowhere. When people are calling for executions of capitalists, and even if they're making a joke, you know that there's a material basis to that joke. If Sir Fred Goodwin's house in Edinburgh is attacked by people who then daub his walls with graffiti denouncing capitalism, then you know that they may not be Marxists, but they're beginning to understand. They're beginning to understand what the whole thing is about, that it's people like that running an outdated system which have brought misery to hundreds of millions of people around the world.